Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. And my guest today is someone I always love talking to because we have such great conversations.
Sorry, Jeff. I'm
Today,
looking. I had some straws here, and I must have misplaced them. I'm looking everywhere for
they're somewhere.
them.
Today, he's here to talk about a band of his that you may not have heard of. They were called Slam, born in the early 90s, and they had one of those great unreleased records until now. But here to tell us the whole story is the one and only Jeff Scott Soto. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. Always good to be on your show. Always good to talk to you. I every time we do stuff together, I always compliment you on how different your approach is to
Thank you.
what we do when we do it, and I really thoroughly enjoy it. When I saw your name on the list of people we're going to be doing this with, I'm like, right on.
There we go. So, Slam. So we're going to join Mr. Peabody and Sherman and get in the Wayback Machine and go
Right on.
all the way back to 91. Now, for me, I'm a sophomore in college. You've been out of Ingve's band for quite a while. You released the debut from Eyes already. You're looking for something a little bit different. How does Slam get formed?
Talisman also had released the first album, and at that point there weren't any plans on Talisman continuing just yet. Eyes was pretty much on the descend only pretty much when Slam came about. Slam came about mainly as just a songwriting thing between George Bernhardt and myself. George was part of a band called Bo Nasty, and in Bo Nasty, most of the players in that band I'd already had stints with. Douglas Baker and Mike Tirana I played with Cooney with in 1987, 88. And before that, Brian Young, I had a band called L'Amour. And so all these guys were part of Bo Nasty, and the only one I hadn't played with, I'm not going to start a band with the singer. The last member of the band was George Bernhardt, who I always thought was an amazing guitar player, great writer. But we didn't really even know each other. I just got a random call from him saying, "Hey, I got a collection of tunes that I put together. I thought you'd be great to sing on them. Maybe help me collab and finish them." No intention, no. We had no idea. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to write songs for other bands. We're going to put a band. It was none of that. It was just, he's got some songs. He wants to hear them finish. So I decided to join him on that because always respected his playing, and he was always such a great guy. This was one of the few situations where it was so immediate. The respect and the level of trust was so immediate upon. I mean, I'm only 6 years into my professional career. I don't have the meat and potatoes I have now behind me. But he trusted and respected what I did as a singer, as a writer, to do everything that I did. There was no guidance or there wasn't any, you should redo that. I don't like that lyric. He let me do me and I let him do him. And that's one of the beautiful things about Slam. One of the very few instances where we just let the process happen. Along the way, we decided we have to make a band out of this. The first incarnation of the band was we had two guys from, well, it was actually George and I for the first incarnation. We just wrote and did everything. He did all the drum machine. He played all the instruments. I did whatever keys, did all the vocals. And we found a drummer, a guy named Mark Bisty, great drummer from Boston. And we just needed to put the rest of the band together when we realized we needed to make a band. We got these two guys from back east. One of them was, his name is Craig Polifka from Connecticut. And one of his best friends still to this day, Chris McCarville, who's now still with House of Lords. I don't know if he's still doing House of Lords.
No,
was talking, doing all kinds of stuff. He ventured off and did a lot of things after Slam, and God bless him for it. But they were in the first incarnation of Slam when we decided to make a band out of this, and there was only one song that featured them on this release here. And then came Mark II, was basically with Gary Shutt. We got him in the band, and we got a bass player named Ricky Walking on bass. It didn't really work out too well with Gary musically. I think we realized the direction we wanted to go is where you hear the third phase of Slam is where we were heading, and that's where we decided to keep it just a 4-piece. We didn't need a second guitar player. I guess George was just so used to that, from Hanover Fist to Bo Nasty, always had a second guitar player, second fiddle, that they could play leads and do harmony stuff. But this band didn't really call for it, so we didn't continue it as a 5-piece band.
Yeah, and it's funny as you kind of go through those lineups. You and Jason Beeler just played here in Connecticut a little while back, and Chris McCarville and Craig Polivka were in the crowd.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that even though things like that didn't work out, you guys still stay in touch. And Gary went on to do a lot with you on guitar over the years. So as you're kind of putting this together, were you kind of keeping in the back of your mind that, this may not work for this band, but, there may be other projects where I can pull some of these guys in?
I never really think about that during the process when I start something new with somebody that I've never worked with or barely worked with. I don't look at it as like checklist. Let's keep them on the Rolodex. That kind of happens organically later if something comes up and a particular sound or position comes up. That's when I go, I think Gary would be perfect for that, or Chris, or whatever. That's when I can pinpoint. I don't necessarily file anybody away into the I'll use them later category. I'll use them later category kind of happens on its own, and then I kind of that kind of placement would work. So
now, when the songs we're listening to here, you mentioned how one of them was recorded with that first lineup. The rest of them, is it mainly that third lineup where you guys stripped it down to a 4-piece? Is that what we're hearing on this record?
I'm saying the first more than a third was George and I.
Yeah,
there was only the one song with Craig and Chris, and then when we were a 4-piece with Ricky, that's the tail end. That's the other maybe quarter of the album. So I'm gonna say almost half of the first part of the album was George and I solely. We put everything together. We played everything. We did everything, just the two of us. There were no, except for the saxophone player on the song Lonely Shade of Blue, there were no outside musicians or other resource. But the main thing to point out is these are demos. We got a demo deal back in the day. There was we were working with a manager who was under the umbrella of Stifel Phillips, which is the management company that worked with Prince. They worked with Rod Stewart. They're a big company. They were not interested in taking us on, but one of their colleagues that worked under them, she took us on because she believed in us. She loved the sound and everything. So, but she did what she could with us, which wasn't much in the long term. We couldn't secure a deal, all of the above, but she secured a demo deal for us from I forgot what label it was. Instead of George and I taking the money and saying, okay, well, let's go make a badass demo, 2 or 3 songs in a studio, we invested in our home studio. And when I say home studio, I'm talking the old Tascam 8-track recorders where the cassette tapes were our master tapes. We did magic with those cassette tapes. I equate what we were able to pull out of those masters, and you hear it right here. These are the original 8-track songs that we made together on that machine. I equate that to what Queen had to go to back in the day when they were making Bohemian Rhapsody. They didn't have 96 channels. They didn't have multiple, digital layer of as many tracks as you need. We were improvising as we went along. We were finding ways to bounce and mix and overdub, and it still worked without too much quality loss. When you hear it now today, it's unbelievable that we recorded this stuff over 30 years ago on a cassette tape as our master.
Yeah, you would never guess. I mean, the sound, it's crystal clear. It sounds really good.
It is, and I give all that credit to George because he was one of those. He's one of those wonder kinds. He's not just a guitar player or just a writer. He's all of the above. He really dug deep into mixing and producing, into engineering. He just mastered all that stuff. So I give all the credit to him. I just showed up at his house. He'd give me a song. I showed up at his house with the lyrics. I bust them out, and then he did all the work and all the magic afterwards. So what you get here is a collection of those demos. There was a minuscule, like a microsecond of talk. Maybe we should go in and redo these songs for real, the way they were intended to sound. And I kiboshed that immediately because these demos have been floating around the universe for 30 years. A lot of people have 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation copies of them, but they're so married to those versions. I know, because I know how I am when I have a collection of things they're not released, and you've got a hidden gem, but it just sounds cruddy. In the back of your mind is like, my God, I wish I had a good quality version of exactly this. I don't want it redone. I don't want it remixed. I don't want it remastered. I want this, but a clean copy. And I talked them into this is a point in time. It's like a post stamp. We did it. We walked away from it, and that's the magic that we created. That's what should be heard. We shouldn't redo it. We shouldn't touch it. There's no way I can sing half of that stuff range wise. And
Yeah.
it was a moment. We captured it, and
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that people who have those original versions get now the original versions in a cleaner, like a cleaner, smoother way.
Yep. And the songs themselves, anyone that maybe knows you from like the last 10 or 15 years, or even from the old Ingve stuff, probably won't recognize you in these songs.
Right.
They're funky, like a lot of 90s rock. There are elements of hip hop and electronic music. There's a total Prince vibe to them. I mean,
Absolutely.
they're really great. Just talk about where you were at as a musician when you're putting these together.
This is the first thing that really took me in. When I heard these songs, George was writing the kind of material that I wish I was working on already with others.
Mm-hmm.
And this, again, I had Talisman, I had other entities that were great for me. They were great vehicles for me and my voice. But musically, I've always grown up with the funk, R&B, soul side of things. I got into rock way late in life. Like maybe 2 years before I was with Ingve, I finally started listening to heavy metal and started being influenced by it. But I always carried the torch of the earlier days of what I grew up and loved growing up. Now we go into that time frame when Aerosmith were doing what they were always doing, but they were even doing it more so when they were doing the Pump album, when they were doing the Permanent Vacation album. There was a whole element of groove and excitement with their stuff compared to some of the earlier days. Now you add Extreme to that mix. You add Living Color. You add King's X. You add Dan Reed Network. Now all of a sudden that world, I was like, forget metal. I did the metal thing. It was fun. It was great. But I want to now incorporate that into my world because that's the world I grew up in. That I got into rock because I heard a singer named Bobby Kimball singing with this badass band called Toto, and they found a way to inject soul and black music with rock. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to put those two together, and I finally found that vehicle with Slam. So it was exactly that. I took all the love for Prince. There's even an element of Extreme on there. Extreme were new as well. They just released Porno Graffiti, and I was still tapping into that world. There's a little Dan Reed. There's a little bit of all those things that I loved during that time in what we did with Slam.
And it's cool because a handful of these songs saw the light of day later on. Love Parade had, I think, about 4 or 5 of them on there.
Yeah.
With George on guitar on that record as well. Talisman on
For
Human
You.
Animal, you had a couple
Right.
on there.
Yeah. Dear God.
Again, did you just kind of feel that these songs are too good to be left
Absolutely
on a tape somewhere?
And that was my mindset. It was that we created such great stuff and nobody will ever hear it, or people will only get their mitts on the, like I said, the cassettes, the demos and all that. I love these songs so much. It was actually Marcel's idea when he knew Slam was not going to exist anymore. He asked if we could do Wasting Our Time and Dear God for the Humanimal album, which I was so happy for. He came to me about it. I didn't have to say, hey, I got a couple songs, maybe we can try them, because then he would be interested. He would be into doing it as opposed to doing it only for my benefit. And it was the same with even on my Love Parade album. There's a version of a song called United Divided and another one called Monogamy and Lust. And they were derived. I took the lyrics and made completely new songs for Love Parade because I didn't want to infringe on the Slam sound. I wanted something totally different for Love Parade. So I reinvented the songs musically, but I still took the lyrics and melodies. And now you get the original versions. You get to hear those and get to A/B them basically.
And you mentioned how some of these have been kind of floating around on cassettes for years. I remember having a copy of a cassette that had maybe about half of these Slam songs on it way back when.
Yeah.
Why did now feel like the right time for you guys to say, let's put this collection out there?
Well, it wasn't our decision. It was 20th Century that came to us. And they were amongst many that had these demos, that had copies of them. They grew up listening to these songs. And again, as I said earlier, they had kind of 3rd or 4th generation copies. They came to us asking, guys, would you be interested in doing a compilation of all these songs and releasing it, finally making an official release, because there's a lot of people out there that know these songs. They'd love to have a copy of them clean. And I thought George would say, why bother? They were demos. They were never meant to be masters. And we both absolutely, it's so in tune. I love these songs, the way they sound, the way they are, as they are. And he was the same way. It's like, absolutely, let's do it just for the sake of that. We're not trying to sell a new band. We're not trying to introduce a reunion. We're not putting the band back together. None of that stuff. It was all about, you guys want to do it, we're interested in working with you and putting it together and making sure it happened. And George actually mastered this stuff, because again, another side to him is he's gotten into mastering and he's great at it. So he said, after it took me like a year to finally dig up all the DATs and the copies, and was this the final version or is this one? And I actually screwed up. The version of the song Dance Somebody Electric on the record is the wrong one. That's me singing over Chris and Craig's original demo that they sent me when they still lived in Connecticut. We redid it together in LA, and I have that version, but for some reason, stupid me put the wrong version in the masters I sent to George. So you have the original demo of that. They recorded all of that on their home studio back in Connecticut, and that's my voice just kind of working around what eventually became the final version of it that unfortunately is not on this album.
That's cool though. Now, you guys, as you were putting these songs together, did any version of Slam ever play live, or were you guys just a studio thing?
We did a gig in LA with opening for Dan Reed Network. We did a show in, I think we played Colorado, Utah. We did a few dates here and there, just basically trying to present the band out there. Unfortunately, they weren't big enough shows to entice labels to come out. You're talking about 91, 92. That was a time where everything was shifting. The whole LA scene, the hair metal scene, everything was going. Even a band like Extreme changed their sound from Waiting for the Punchline. Everybody was heading towards that Seattle grungy sound, and Slam had no placement whatsoever. Labels they did not want to take the risk or the gamble. They told us, guys, this music is old. It's not nothing we can work with. And I saw a lot of those bands just go, what do we do now? And Slam was one of them. So we just kept doing it for us. We kept reinventing what we were doing. And as I said, the final songs on the record are where we really wanted. That's what should have been from the beginning. That's where we really wanted to go. But unfortunately, there just wasn't enough interest to keep it going, and it fizzled out.
Yeah, and it's funny because with the 80s, everybody looks back and thinks about the hair, and in the 90s, and now, even though I think Slade kind of started this in the 70s, but Prince really perfected it in the 90s, it's all about how you spell your song titles. And my friend on here, you were on fire.
I just ripped off Prince. All my lyric formatting was all Prince. I remember when I first signed with Frontiers Records, and I sent them the first album was Prism I did with them, and they said we need the lyrics to put on the album. I got an email from the president of the company. Goes, Jeff, what is this? What is these letters, and just instead of words and numbers, and what are you doing? Hey man, that's just the way I do things. I'm hugely influenced by Prince. But it's ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. So tell it to Prince. He's pretty successful. It's not so ridiculous. So I eventually weaned off of it because I realized that is kind of a signature stamp of his. But I was so influenced by it, I just did it on everything. At that time.
And now Slam, the record's out now. This was kind of a moment in time from back in the 90s, but in terms of releases now, you've been kind of quiet the past year or so with getting stuff out there. What do we got to look forward to?
Well, unfortunately, this interview is too soon to speak about it. There is something in the pipeline that I can't talk about. The only thing I can say is in September, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. And like I said, it's unfortunate I can't talk about it. I can't even hint about it now. But it's really, really cool. It's something I'm really proud of. I can't wait for the world to hear it and see it. And the plan is that this is going to be, it's not Sons of Apollo. It's something totally new for me. And it's, from what I hear, we're going to be blasting throughout the world next year. So it's one of those things that we put a lot of commitment behind, and I'm already turning a lot of things down for next year to make room for this.
Fantastic. So in other words, we'll be doing this again around October or so.
No, well, by September, when this
Yeah.
drops, the announcement of what it is going to drop the same day that the music and the video drops. So it's all going to happen in one day.
Fantastic.
Nobody knows about this, and I'm already saying too much. Let's put it that way.
Well, we'll stop it there so you don't have to hunt me down and kill me for knowing too much.
They're going to hunt me down and kill me.
Well, we've been spending some time here with the incredible Jeff Scott Soto. The band is called Slam. The record's out now. It is an amazing just snapshot of a really cool period in music. I think it's one of your strongest periods because I think you could tell from your voice how much you were into these songs.
Absolutely.
It's a fun listen. It's actually a great summer record for now. Definitely recommend checking it out.
It's going to make you shake your ass. It's got a lot of groove. It's got a lot of funk. It's got a lot of attitude. It's got everything. I love this record so much in terms of the music and the context. And again, if we'd gotten signed, you'd have a completely different collection of songs done in in the professional way. But what we did for these songs with these songs in what we had, I'm so proud of them. I'm so happy that George agreed to do this with me, and the guys from 20th Century Music wanted to do this with us.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Jeff. Best of luck, and something tells me we're going to be talking again really soon.
Yes, sir. Probably in September. You got 2 months to wait.
You got. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, Jeff.